What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. Can you answer this question? What is it that you want? What is it that you truly want out of your life? What is it that you want out of next year or the next 3? What are you heading towards? Do you know? My guess is that the majority of people you meet cannot answer this question. I know I struggle with it, and I see it as a theme around me. Most people do not know what they really want. And so can you be surprised that most people, a high, sad percentage in the 90s, do not do much with their life or live their life out in a way of what could have been possible for them? Not because they weren't talented, not because they weren't hardworking, not because they lacked the skills, not because they didn't have hobbies or didn't succeed in certain realms, but only because they never got clear on what it is that they really wanted. So things happened. They grew in some ways, stayed behind in others, but none of it according to some grand plan. All haphazard, not in service to a higher ideal at all. No specific goal. So then, not as much life lived. Never having met the edges, the maximum capacities of anything in life. All because no idea what you want. What a silly reason for 99% of us to be throwing our life away for. And I get it. We are living in the age of distraction. And I used to think that it was just an attention problem, and it is, but it's deeper than that. Our attention is definitely under attack. Don't get me wrong. And everyone is vying for seconds of it or trying to buy more seconds and measuring all of their metrics by how many minutes and seconds of your life they got. So attention is the greatest asset you have and the greatest monetizable commodity for all creators, platforms, which ultimately get paid by brands and large corporations who want your attention to get you to spend dollars. It is literally the only thing of value. And right now, these companies are valuing our attention more than we value our own. With so much pulling at your attention, many of us, including myself, cannot hold a thought long enough to make anything of it. And the hugest problem with that is everything in life is a project. I define a project as anything that requires 2 or more steps. And what in life that you are trying to accomplish is going to take only 1 step. So much of what we achieve in life is determined by us holding that thought turned to then pursuit through long enough time horizons. And the longer the time horizon you can hold your attention and activity for, the more you can accomplish. And usually that is what sets apart an employee, apart from a manager, apart from the CEO, apart from the CEO of a multinational corporation, apart from the billionaires, setting the pace of innovation. Each one following the next holds a worldview in longer and longer time frames to build their plans around. An employee thinks about his next paycheck. The billionaire thinks in decades or lifetimes and beyond. Much of that hinges on your ability to hold your attention long enough to see projects through their incremental stages. And so while our attention is fundamental, I used to think it was only an attention problem that people had, that I could not focus to do great things. But like when people say they have a bad memory, they blame the retention of their memory. And in that case, it's usually not a retention problem, it's an attention problem. They just don't remember because they weren't listening or paying close enough attention. So similarly, when I was blaming myself for what I think is an attention problem, just like when I blame my memory and it's not usually a retention problem, it's an attention problem. When I'm blaming my attention, what I wasn't looking for was the similar downline reasons for what could actually be creating the problem. And what I've realized is built into the word distraction. Distraction. It's literally anything that takes away traction. And traction is like grip on the road, is momentum. It's the ability to build up speed considering the tire and wheel bearing capacity and the conditions of the road. Traction. And in that implies something that goes back to the very point of this episode. Traction can only happen when you are headed somewhere clear and certain. You cannot build up momentum in haphazard directions. And so while you may think you are bound for mediocrity because of attention, it's not an attention problem. The reality is that your attention has no real reason to be activated or directed unless it has a goal, unless it has a place to drive towards. How can there be any traction? So while your notifications and social media do have a great capacity to distract you, you first have to know what track they are taking you off of. And then, yes, distraction is anything that's taking you off course from the traction towards your goal. But how many of you watch things, listen to things, read things, and lie to yourself in your mind that somehow it contributes to what you are learning, or that this general knowledge will help you somewhere? And it might. But the lie in that fact is that it doesn't clearly contribute to a clear goal. It is a distraction taking you away from what you should be doing, but you don't know what you should be doing. That's the problem. And think about this before you watch your next YouTube video. Is it actually in line with what you are trying to achieve, if you know? So if not, back to the issue. Do you even know what it is that you are trying to achieve? What do you want? Or if you don't know, then nothing is distraction, because nothing is traction. And your attention will absolutely then be owned by other companies, because you do not know how to wield it for a greater purpose. So you have no domain over it. I'll give you a fitness example. I've been exercising regularly since 2011. For someone who didn't know anything about working out and exercise when I first started, I just followed along with Beachbody videos. I did the whole P90X series, Body Beast, Insanity. I did them all. And I will only call it exercise because it served the purpose of keeping me active and me dealing with my stress, but I wouldn't call it training. Exercise is quite different from training. Training has a clear goal. It's implied in the word training. What are you training for? And your body is so smart that it will adapt to whatever activity you do. So if you start running for long marathons, your body will start shedding muscle and make you as light as possible. It will start adapting. So what signals was I giving my body to adapt to when I did all these different types of exercise? Yeah, it made me well-rounded. I had some bodybuilding shape and I have the cardio of a marathon runner. It's not all bad. It's good, but it's not great. Not great by any specific measure, because I have never defined what measure to measure it by in the first place. How could I when I'm not even clear on what I'm training for? And only a few years ago did I somewhat get clear on what I've wanted out of my current physique. And I've dedicated myself to that particular thing. And while I'm seeing results in this new focus, I'm sure that I'm diminishing my abilities in the other areas that I used to be good in. But I cannot focus on everything because there's only so much time. So as a metaphor for life, while I succeed in one thing, I borrow from the success of another. And that is a clear choice, a trade-off that you must make as you get older, because you cannot keep all possibilities open. And if you fool yourself into thinking that you can, time will start closing doors for you. And at some point, even you won't believe your own bullshit. So you must make the trade-offs. You must decide. Even if that means you lose some ability in some areas, it will be worth it for the focused growth you see in the one that you have chosen. And that's what life is about. You can be anything you want, but you can't be everything. And I don't want to hear about hybrid athletes and CrossFit. None of those people are great at anything. I'm open to arguing this until your face is blue. You must choose. And this disturbs me more than anything about the nature of time and reality. But you must choose. So again, I ask you, what do you want? The clearer you can answer this question, the higher the chance of what you want actually being what you end up having. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not only making a case for specificity here. The higher you go up in life, the more generalized you are expected to be. You become the conductor of the orchestra, but not until you have put in the hours and time and paid down the debt to do so. And that comes from going deep first. Then you can go wide. You have to know 400 notes that you can play and then pick the right 4. That's depth and then discretion. You cannot build your discretion until you are first a duplicate and study as a student. Intuition is something that is earned through deliberate practice. You cannot conduct a symphony until you have cultivated your ear through considerable effort. So even in your ambition to lean on your general knowledge, you must first have evidence for what your dedicated effort in one particular area has done for you. So what is it that you want? What is that area going to be? Even if you answer that for the next season of your life, you must. If you do not know where you are going, any road will get you there. To a ship with no destination, any wind is favorable. All this age-old wisdom, and we're still chasing our own tails and claiming that we're lost. We're not lost. We're just indecisive. We're gluttons. We want it all and are not willing to accept that it doesn't work that way. Most of who accomplish a lot in life, a lot of it can be attributed to just first clearly choosing what it is that they really wanted, at least wanted next, and then hyper-focusing on that until they see it through. The true genius is a mind of large general powers accidentally determined to some particular direction. Maybe it'll happen by accident, but maybe it'll be a choice. You need a direction still. And it would seem that any choice made on what we want would be better than living in indecision. Because time is a cost. And you probably have one of those directions in mind, but are not convinced that it's all you want to be ever. Let this be your sign to at least let it be what you are next. You know what your boss wants. You know what your kids want. You know what your wife wants, your family wants. All that can inform your wants. But it's still on you to ultimately answer. What do you even want? Love you, family. Stay true, always. See you on the next show.